Go.
When I was young, I was a bright, happy, and enthusiastic child. So, some people might have been just a little bit surprised when years later I had become, well, an angry, disaffected, sullen high school dropout. I mean, it made perfectly good sense at the time, but life as a high school dropout quickly proved to be even more depressing than life as a high school student. So, I sort of tested my way into Boston University. Yeah, then I dropped out of that one too. If I could have signed a form to officially drop out of American society or the human race next, I would have done it, so. I guess just believe me when I tell you, when I was 21 in 1990, and I applied for the job at Massachusetts General Hospital, it was not out of any great desire to help my fellow man. It was only because the job paid really well. $9 an hour, which was still $3 an hour more than the job I'd been previously doing, working in a supermarket pushing carts of meat around. The difference between a job and a career is simple. A job is something you get when you want to make a lot of money, and a career is something you get when you want to enjoy what you do, while at the same time making a lot of money. An ongoing study by educational theorist Dr. Marigold Baxter shows that students who enter college looking for jobs report that their dreams go unfulfilled, but students who enter college looking for careers report that their dreams have been fulfilled. With the economic recession still looming and unemployment figures still high, it is important for us to remember that we must seek careers, not just jobs, because they will make the benefit in life. Elevator ER by John Levin. See, now, the fact that the hospital hired me to do that job at that time in my life should suffice to scare each and every person in this room into taking perfectly good care of yourselves from now on. But hire me they did, and my official job title was OR Nursing Assistant Night Shift. Basically an orderly with a few additional responsibilities. The most fundamental of my responsibilities was transporting patients to surgery, which I was trained to do for 2 weeks during the day shift when everything is regularly scheduled. Yeah, on the night shift nothing is regularly scheduled. It's the fucking night shift. Patients are usually bloodied, sometimes agitated and need to be restrained, but for the most part they were either completely unconscious or just heavily sedated, so still not too much interaction with me. Which kind of made it eerily reminiscent to my previous job pushing carts of meat around. I didn't see them as human beings at a time of great need as I did, well, packages that needed to be delivered as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Like a burst appendix to OR 27, a coked up scumbag with multiple stab wounds, OR 21. Pregnant lady who got hit by a drunk driver, OR 23. I mean, it was all a manner of human suffering, but to me, it was just all the same. Anyway, maybe 3 months later, it's like 3 in the morning and we get a call from an ICU. They have a patient named Mr. Williams, who had surgery the previous morning and had apparently sprung a little leak and needed to come back down. So as I go up to get him, I see that the nurses are detaching him from his EKG and his respirator, and are attaching a portable heart monitor and an airbag to his breathing tube, which I'm going to have to squeeze to breathe for him during this trip. Which means that someone else is going to have to come along with me, because you can't steer an ICU bed and squeeze an airbag at the same time. Unfortunately for me, all of the nurses in the ICU were already overtaxed and couldn't spare anyone except this young girl named Melissa, who was a nursing student at the time. Now, Melissa was really nervous about the trip because she'd never been anywhere else in the hospital before and had never really been given any responsibilities. But the nurses told her, "That's fine. Mr. Williams is fine. This will be routine." So, anyway, I'm pushing from the back and squeezing the airbag as I'm directing Melissa on the shortest route to go to the OR. The entire trip would only take a few minutes, most of which would be spent waiting on an old, crappy elevator. So, then the elevator arrives, we get in, push the button, doors close, and nothing was happening. And then the lights went out, and I'm about to say, what the fuck, when we start moving. But we're not moving right. The elevator is not making its normal sound, and my stomach is up in my throat, and that's when I realized that we're falling. What the fuck? I didn't sign up for this. I'm not ready to die. then I would have shit myself. But before any of that can happen, the elevator's emergency brakes kicked in, and I was slammed to the ground, Melissa was thrown to her feet, and Mr. Williams was bouncing around on his bed, and his equipment was all jostled. So, just to recap what I know at this point in time, I am in the dark, in a box, somewhere. And there are 3 distinct sounds that I can hear. 1 is Melissa, who has started crying. 2 is the elevator's emergency buzzer that started buzzing. And 3 is Mr. Williams' heart monitor, indicating that, like our elevator, his heart stopped. And in this case, just denial and anger gave way to bargaining. You know, Melissa's got some medical experience. Maybe she should be the one to be in charge. Yeah, then I realized Melissa's cowering in a corner wondering if we're all still going to die. But if one of the 2 of us doesn't do something soon, Mr. Williams is definitely going to die. So I just kind of begrudgingly admitted to myself that I'm going to have to get in the game here. So I got up, and I had Melissa get up, and by the dim lights of the LEDs on Mr. Williams' heart monitor, I could barely see her hands. So I grabbed a hold of them, put them on the airbag, and I said, "You do the airbagging, I'm going to do chest compressions." But unfortunately for me, Mr. Williams was a big guy, and I couldn't get good leverage, and it was too dark to see the controls of the ICU bed to see if it got any lower. So just out of total desperation, I did something I'd seen one of the emergency ward doctors do once before. I went to the foot of the bed, sort of climbed onto the bed, and, well, mounted Mr. Williams and did chest compressions from above. And it seemed to be working fine as far as I could tell. So, anyway, we're here like this, in the dark for, I don't know, it felt like hours, but it was probably more like 5 minutes, till finally the buzzing thing stopped, the lights flickered and came back on. And then a garbled voice came over the intercom, and it's like, "Stand by." Like, "Yeah, about that one. Fuck you." So we're moving again. And it's in a controlled manner, which still was not that comforting until we made it to the 3rd floor, the OR floor. Now, Melissa was so eager and so overjoyed to get us out of that elevator that she just started pushing. And like all of the panic and confusion from earlier had become like a forward motion. Like there was a breeze in my face. And I was struggling to do the chest compressions while Melissa's doing the running and the airbagging, and the entire thing was just absolutely exhilarating to the point where I had to actively stifle the urge to just laugh out loud. So I screwed my face up into a mask of seriousness, because it would be a tad unseemly to appear to be enjoying riding a patient through a hospital. Then we get to OR 29, and the entire surgical team is standing there, of course, like, "Where the hell have you been?" But as soon as they see us, they realize that this situation is, well, anything but normal. So they draw us into the operating room and sort of seamlessly take over. And then I can get off of Mr. Williams, because, well, he was in much more capable hands. They got to work, and they saved him. And he lived. And the thing that surprised me was that I actually cared. I mean, like, since when do I give a shit about anything that happens to me? It had been so long since I'd felt anything positive in my life, especially related to job performance, that it just took me a while to realize that I enjoyed what I was doing. I enjoyed caring about Melissa and Mr. Williams and myself. Anyway, the exhilarating feeling didn't go away the rest of my shift, or the ride home, and it prevented me from getting to bed the next morning. And I found myself mentioning this very incident about 6 months later in a personal essay I was including along with my application to get back into Boston University.
9:23.